this document. This board meeting conducted, since yesterday's conversation, we had another teleconference last night at 8:30. This morning we met again at 7:30 as an operations team. This is a copy of the printed message that was sent out yesterday, and this is the district agenda that was shared. Mr. Chair, this is probably in 3 phases. First of all, we're going to prepare for closure, which is today and tomorrow. Today we're really focused on preparing our staff for tomorrow. So I'm going to let our directors talk about what happened today in preparation for tomorrow. Let's start with honesty on this. So Corey, I know Corey Larson's got to speak out, so I want to let Corey share first.
Thank you for having me tonight. So I'm going to zip out of here about 6 o'clock. I'm available for a phone call or two if you guys need further clarification. But I just want to extend a huge gratitude and thank you to the community for stepping up. Pizza Ranch, for example, having kids being able to come up there, they don't want kids going hungry. There's many other examples out there, and then staff have been wonderful. The staff that I've talked to, pretty much my entire staff, is in favor of wanting to have kids in the building tomorrow. So that's how we've been proceeding, is having the students come. So as soon as the message out to the students is they're going to be reporting as soon as they hit the doors, we're going to model and teach these kids social distancing. And so as soon as they get to the doors, they're going to go right into their advisors. And so they will be with their advisors from 7:30 or until 8:15. And then we're going to move right into educating them. So we've got about a 40-minute presentation that we're all, as a staff, is going to present to the students, which is kind of fun and exciting. I've got it if you want to see it at some point. We're going to tell them what this is all about and how do we mitigate, and what kind of reiterate some of the governor's message. I think it's important for all of us to learn from that. And then from there, we're going to ensure that the students are going to be separated at lunch. And so we've got staggered lunch times. At the end of the day, we've got staggered times for when kids are going to be departing for the day. We have got this so that that they are going to be a chance to go into their lockers and grab all their materials and all the things out of their lockers. We are planning for the worst and hoping for the best is kind of the message with the students. Again, a lot of this stuff is in the details of the 40-minute presentation that they're all going to get one single message. We've got about 3 videos that we've found that are key, pretty central to getting the message out to help the students learn from this opportunity. And that's really what we're facing, is an opportunity, one last chance to see the kids here before they end up possibly being away from the building from 2 to 7 weeks is the message right now that we're hearing from the governor. So I think that we've got a well-executed plan. It's been reviewed for 30-some plus hours. It's been constantly, it's fluid, and just kind of hoping that we can exercise that tomorrow. Again, I think
similar to Corey's, I think we've worked really hard to create a plan. Some of our bigger concerns, certainly we want to get kids the materials they need, but we also have some really anxious kids, and we know that, and we have anxious families, and that's one of the reasons we really want to connect with them tomorrow. And so we have very similar plans. Kids will come in, they won't have to go through their normal day just with going outside and going to their classrooms. Instead, they'll just really be with their classroom community tomorrow. They have recess at different times throughout the day. We've arranged schedules, lunches in classrooms with just their teacher, or their classroom teacher and paraprofessionals that have been with them all day. We worked really hard to say, well, what does distance learning look like? It's different for us than e-learning. We normally don't go up on e-learning. We do a lot of review and practice. We have to deliver standards, and so for our staff, that's really different. And so how do we do that with, we've assembled our Chromebook carts at 4 through 6, and everybody 4 through 6 will get a Chromebook. We're trying to provide some guidance on how do you use a Chromebook, what's it appropriate, how do you share information. Okay, who's echoing? Thanks, Justin. All right. Trying to just figure out how do we share information with students and families about the appropriateness of that, and then also K3 saying how does it work for you. We're really talking about preparing for 2 weeks and then sending it as much as we can home tomorrow with not being used until March 30th. That's a really big plan for us. We as an operations team really went through a lot of things today in each group. So when we say our operations team, it's Mark Meyer, it's the food nutrition services, it's our district office, it's Corey, myself, Angie. Our secretaries we pulled in today as well to say, and our deans of students to say this needs to happen, and they would just have tasks kind of assigned as far as schedules and things. And I can't say enough how much I appreciate that team that has really worked hard in making this happen. Our staff, it was a bit of a somber day, and our staff was really there to say, all right, we're digging in and we're taking care of things. Our paraprofessionals did an incredible job. They jumped in and they have cleaned our entire building, all seats, all tables. And then really, we're all talking about the next step is how do we provide childcare, healthcare, and emergency personnel. And so we're really working through those next steps. Audrey Fry will be kind of the lead on that, but how will our paraprofessionals and other non-certified and maybe even certified staff support that? And so it's really all hands on deck, and it's a really big deal right now with our entire staff. So.
Okay. Is Sarah Nuss or Kelly Quaid available?
No, she is not. I can give you an update.
I'm on the board.
Oh,
I'm
there
here.
she is.
Perfect.
Please share.
Today for us, obviously, we're a little bit different. We have kids coming from kind of all over the place. So our teachers made phone calls home to every family, figuring out how we can get meds to them, back to them. I think we've got some deliveries that are going to happen, whether or not they have internet access, if they have their district contact information, because for some of them, they were wondering how they access meals or that child care, and they will do that in their district, so we made sure they had the contacts for that. And Leah is working on, there's a application she has to fill out to do telepractice for the mental health staff. Once that application is in and approved, then they can do that via some kind of telepractice, and then they can also bill for those services.
Corey, can you cover our, I don't think our food service rep is on, but
No.
we want to talk about food service.
Thank you, yeah, and part of our, just to backtrack, we are gonna get an opportunity to see the students tomorrow with our advisory, and so we're gonna have surveying of students, and so we're gonna reach out to get a chance which specific kids don't have the internet, which kids need meals and that type of thing. It kind of leads into my work I've been doing here with our food service. And so the plan is right now it's two sites, and so there will be meals prepared and available. I think the hours we were talking about from 10 to 12 o'clock starting Wednesday, and that'll be a Starbucks site, and then in Glenwood we're gonna have from 10 to 12 available. So the offer is to anyone. Right now it's free of charge, just like it would be for any free and reduced. The plan is that there's gonna be some charge for a regular, if Allie and Jack Larson wanna go over to get their lunch, but it also would include both meals for lunch and breakfast. And we can't do multiple days, and so it's really an everyday. Then our next phase, we'll call it phases, the next phase would be identify those students that are outreach, that don't have a chance, so that's through that surveying. Who are some students that we need to deliver that meal to? And so that might not happen that first day. In fact, I'll tell you right now, it's the logistics aren't gonna be there, but hopefully by Thursday, Friday, if we hear that students need it, we're gonna put a plan in place of getting those delivered. Does that answer your question, Chip?
Yep.
Okay.
Sir, can you cover a little about the child age school care that you work on today?
Yep. So we are providing childcare to all healthcare employees, all emergency personnel, and educators' children. And so we're working to figure out exactly who. We have a survey that will go out shortly after this tonight for anyone to sign up, at least to get us through the next probably 5-7 days through the 25th, to identify if they need what their hours will look like, and then if they need transportation. We are required to provide transportation for anyone. Our hours will be from 7:30 to 3:30, and again, that will be staffed with likely our paraprofessionals and some non-certified staff. At this point, we don't exactly know what routes will look like and how we'll pick up kids and all of that. We need to know who's all coming first, and then our goal is, if possible, to start routes already on Wednesday, but we have a lot of work to do tomorrow to figure out just what this looks like and go forward. The survey is in front of you right now, or at least the rough draft of that. We hope to have a more consistent schedule and way to sign up following this, but this is getting us off the ground and figuring out who's even out there that needs childcare. open, and that's open to any student in our district. Unfortunately, Laker Legends is closed, as we know it, along with, for this, not only after school tomorrow, but also for spring break. But we really need to work on keeping this open for our healthcare and for our emergency personnel. We do plan to put out a guidance or the FAQs that identify exactly who that is, along with this survey when it goes out, so that if you're emergency personnel, you know exactly who that is, or if you have any questions of if that's you, you can see right on there who that is.
Next,
Hold on, Ted,
Question.
hold on, Ted,
Done.
Ted, you have a question?
A question would be when the kids come in tomorrow and there's a bunch of questions that are gonna be answered. One is internet, one is if they need food services. I mean, are we calling like 6th grade and under? I mean, those kids don't know anything, about that, right?
Right, we have already asked all of our families
So the
that.
families are already
Yep,
aware.
all of our teachers today spent time finding out from all our families if they have internet access. We already have a spreadsheet created trying to determine if it's a financial piece, and we can provide some support from companies, or if it's a logistic piece of where they live, so that we can try to figure out how we would get access to someone that lives in a place that they don't have a lot of internet support. And so we're already trying to figure that piece out. Lunch, we will identify, we have the list, and we will identify and start checking off who's coming in to get it on Wednesday and who's not, and then we'll be able to go forward and start calling families immediately that are identified as in need. Yes. Our staff did an incredible job and got on it right away today. Thank you.
I guess I have another question. I have all the confidence in the
Just
world
one.
in our staff, moving forward and planning for the future, especially given the fact that we have another 10 days to move forward with implementing a plan that's gonna be quite foreign to some of our instructors and our
Right.
students and families. One of the questions I have with a lot of things that have been changing over the last 24 hours, going from the social distancing aspect from groups of 50 down to groups of 25, and now a couple hours ago, President Trump and the Surgeon General saying that we should really not congregate in groups more than 10. Having said that, have we taken that into consideration of how we're planning for tomorrow?
With that just coming out a couple hours ago, we have not had a conversation yet.
Do we need to have that conversation, folks? Because we have no different than, this has been evolving incredibly since last Wednesday, whether it was, started off with the high school league, and it seemed very small kind of decision about Teams Day, where we're all watching the governor speak on television saying we're not gonna have school on Wednesday, and we're gonna be off for 10 days so that educators can research plans. And we've now seen that, as the Surgeon General has talked about, that it is multiplying in a manner that is pretty consistent nationally, and that we're trying to do things through social distancing to really flatten this thing out. We really need to look at what we're doing tomorrow.
Well, Mr. Chair, I would, I guess I would offer a different opinion. I think if you go to different sources, you would find a lot of contradictory information. Just 3 days ago, our governor recommended the safest place was schools. And even if you look at the State Department right now, the Department of Health, they never actually stated that schools aren't safe. We're just lumping in a small group of people to say every school. Right now, you take a look at it, there's nothing that, even the governor, today and tomorrow, there are some districts that are having school both days. I guess I would turn it over to other board members, but this time, nothing necessitates that we think we're taking any additional risk. And we're gonna clearly allow parents to excuse their kids if they don't feel safe coming to school tomorrow.
We'll open it up. Any further discussion?
Well, I think that,
We have to speak loud.
Shepherd?
yeah. So I think there's been a tremendous amount of inconsistency.
Hold on. Go ahead. Can you hear him?
There's been a tremendous amount of inconsistency in how this has gone. There isn't a right answer. But we've been watching a lot of our national and local leaders that they don't know the answers. They don't, and they're the first ones to say it, but then the plans have been changing, so I'm all about the safety and security of our students and our community, but I do really appreciate what you guys have put together. It's been unbelievable in a short amount of time, under the gun, and having to do this. I personally think there's a lot of value in bringing these kids in one last time and letting this go through, because who knows how it's gonna go in the future. I mean, if they get to come back again, to be able to look at their teachers, who a lot of them, I mean, they put so much trust in their staff and their building leaders and other people's faces that they see every day. So it's important to some of these kids, and I think that needs to happen. And I think the plan, I have enough trust in our leaders that will keep that distance learning piece handled tomorrow, and that's kind of my 2 cents right now, I guess.
So
Mr. Parsons?
To clean out the lockers, that is so they can disinfect them, I assume, while kids are not at class?
Yes, currently
So-
it is to disinfect and clean out, like we have snow pants and boots,
Just to clean it out.
clean it out,
And then we're gonna
remove
disinfect all the
things,
lockers.
disinfect.
So to me, that's, I see both sides, I mean, I absolutely, but there's no other good way to clean out all the lockers other than having the kids here and get their stuff out. And I'm not saying that's a good reason to have kids all come together, but it's another reason to have one more time to get cause that's a big job to get that done and the stuff out.
I would maybe argue that there might be another option. Maybe there's a way that we can triage over the next 10, 11 days and have an A through C show up at a certain designated time, and a B through F show up at another designated time. And that we clear out this building and all the contents within it over that period of time. We're not gonna be educating kids during this time, folks. We're gonna be honing in on our teacher development plans, what we're gonna be doing with these kids thereafter.
So
I appreciate the point.
Mr. Chair,
if I'm,
our buildings will close on Wednesday, and we're going down to minimal staffing. We are not gonna be open for students other than the ones that are identified for food service and childcare. Our buildings will reopen on, if pending the governor's approval, we'll open back up on the 30th, and we could accommodate people coming in the future. Right now, every study we see is the risk is low right now. That's why the governor's allowed us to have discretion at the local level. And I would even argue that we're sounding the 5 o'clock alarm because of what's happening in the metro and Benton County. And yes, it'll probably come to Polk County at some point, but I still believe that we empower our parents to make the decision. I think anybody who's traveled out of the area, like myself, is going to self-quarantine. And, I think just like right now, the governor makes a blank slate for everybody across Minnesota. And I think we're trying to do the same thing here. I think we empower our parents to make a decision for themselves. And I think we provide an opportunity to at least get 2/3 of our building emptied out, because I agree with you, but if you do A through C, you're still going to have 400 kids in this building, unsupervised, unstructured, with minimal staffing. So, I'll support whatever the board wants to do, but we're in the 11th hour that a message is going to go out in the next hour, and I just need some direction from you.
if I may, I think
Mr. Larson.
point, if you don't mind. I do believe that tomorrow is 100% about education, and it's educating in a different way. And this is a thorough conversation I had with my staff. Tomorrow is not about the books. It's not about closing out the third quarter. It's not about any of that stuff. That stuff's easy. It's really about what the Larsons did with the Larson kids on the way up to Lucin. We talked about the coronavirus and all that we knew about it, and things that we know are going to be healthy and sound practices. I can't promise you that every family sitting down having those conversations with the kids. It's about lessening the anxiety, like Sarah said. That's that social emotional piece. It's how to reach out when you have questions. I'm so proud of our support staff in counseling and social workers. They have a full-fledged plan how to not only identify but also talk down these students and say, hey, this is how we're going to get through this together. And tomorrow is about educating. It's just educating differently. And so that's why I would recommend tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. Mr. Reckman?
I think it really boils down to how this disease is really gonna play out. Meaning, if you believe that a certain part of the population never will get it and will stay clean, then there's probably some merit to, slowing it down and trying not to bring everybody in. But I guess I'm of the belief that everybody's gonna get this thing before it's done. And that's why everything's going like it is, where the precaution is to slow it down. Everybody's gonna get it. Some people it's gonna affect horribly. Some people aren't even gonna know that they already had it. So I think everybody's gonna see it, from my thoughts. With that being said, we're gonna slow it down, meaning no NCAA, no whatever, all these big gatherings where it's really gonna flame up, because if it all flames up real fast and it all hits in a week, we can't react. There's not enough ventilators, there's not enough beds, for the people that get hit really hard. So that's what we're kind of doing already, with the governor saying everybody be done by Wednesday. Get it done. Yep, there's a big risk bringing everybody in tomorrow, but I think the risk of the time is probably worse than the congestion of, like, say, tomorrow. Get them in, get them out, try to keep everything down as much as you can, moving forward, because all indications are at the end of the week there'll be more than the beginning of the week. So, it's not good, any option, but it might be the best option of the bad options, if that makes any sense.
Thank you, Ted. Any further discussion amongst the board?
Yeah, I think that you guys got me.
Nick?
Yeah, I'd like to say I concur with Mr. Oldberg. That was very similar to what I wanted to say, so I'm not gonna go into details. I think there's a lot of value in just going back to students or student teachers. I want to ask Mr. Larson, Mrs. Suki, the only other concern I'd have is there any discussion about, is the staff going to be ready having the kids all day tomorrow? Is there a discussion that we would say we want them, but we want them by 1:30, more time to go through
We tossed it back and forth probably 5 different ways, and we were back and forth on this. In the end, we just felt that there wasn't anything to gain from it. The students are gonna come in on the bus, they're gonna go home on the bus. Even if we stagger it, if we get the kids out, I think we lose more than we actually gain in doing something like that. And so, yep, lots of discussion, we vetted it out.
Good question.
Good.
Any other questions or comments?
Can I just quick comment? This is Kelly. I just wanted a quick comment. I have an email here that one of the parents of one of my students is being quarantined right now and tested for coronavirus. So just wanted you to be aware of that. She's not sending her son tomorrow, but I don't know what exposure we've had to it. So if she's got it, we don't know the test results yet.
This is, Kelly, this is a student of yours that you would, Kelly, this is a student of yours that you would have saw last Friday?
Yes.
Oh.
And Miss from Alec. So again, we don't have results. I'm just reading this now that the mom had called and said that she's on a 7-day quarantine and is being tested for coronavirus, and she won't be sending her son to school tomorrow. But just wanted you guys to be aware.
The test was when again?
When was it?
I'm sorry, what was that?
When was the parent tested?
That's all the email says, so I would have to give her a call.
Okay.
I don't know what day she was tested, just, that's all it says.
I don't know if this is the appropriate place for it, but how many staff have come in contact with this child?
The question is, how many staff have come in contact with this child, which would have been on Friday?
Yeah, several, and students, and he's in the biggest class, so that's our biggest class out there.
Can I just intercept here?
Go ahead.
First of all, it's speculation. All right?
Yep. I just wanted you to be
I'm
aware.
probably the highest risk person in this entire phone call, and I can tell you right now, they will not test me. I'm 45 years old, I'm not over 60, I'm not pregnant, I don't have a heart issue, so I try to get tested, and they won't test you. And so I think that the misinformation that's out there has caused this feverish pitch across our country. There's only a very small percentage of people that will actually get tested. And out of those, only a very, very small number of people will actually get treated. Because I'm doing exactly it. I'm staying in a hotel for the next 10 days and I'm limiting my exposure to anybody else. Because the symptoms, even now that I have, are minor. But I'm very contagious, potentially, but I don't know that because they won't test you. And unless this woman's over 65 years old, they probably didn't test her either. She might said she's went to a screening, but I think we have to be very, very, very careful when we start to think we have. First of all, there's all kinds of HIPAA stuff by just sharing that, because the next people will go, "Who's the kid?" And today's social media, they'll have it picked out by 10 o'clock. And then we've seen even the small things, if we say any kind of threatening information with somebody, it's going to go on social media. So I would just like to stop this conversation now. We don't know this is confirmed. We don't have medical evidence concerned, and this whole meeting will go a whole different route. And this is how it's going to go for the next 3 months, so we have to be really careful about, what we're sharing out.
This is Diane, if I could add to what Chip said is exactly what our hospital EOC, as we've been meeting with law enforcement, that's the same message that we're going out. Any of us could be carrying it right now, and we wouldn't know. So it's just a matter of using as much common sense and avoiding social distancing, or doing social distancing when appropriate. There aren't any further mandates coming from Minnesota Hospital Association. I get the key talking points every day of what we need to be telling the public. There isn't anything further than what we've got in the last day from this month.
Thank you, Diane. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's move forward. Jeff?
So what's going to happen this evening is we've basically got plans in place for today and preparing our staff. So phase one, to go back, was the prepare for closure. So tomorrow will be the second day of phase one, where we're going to inform our kids on what this is going to look like. And just so everybody understands, tomorrow is about doing coordination, preparing our kids if we need meals, coordinating for our kids and our families. A survey will go out tonight, a letter will go out. So following this message, following this meeting, I'll be putting a draft letter that'll go out to all our families. And the highlight will be about tomorrow. Basically, it's totally up to our parents if you want to send your kids and prepare for tomorrow. Second thing is if you need childcare for emergency personnel. Next thing is really clarifying what's going to happen during phase two, which is closure. And just so everybody's very clear, because there's been some inconsistencies. Starting Wednesday, our building will be closed to students. There will be no formal education being delivered. Our staff will continue to prep for distance learning, and the deadline to have our plan together will be Monday afternoon, so the board can review it and provide feedback, and then we'll finalize it on Tuesday and have it ready to submit before Friday, before we go on spring break. I'll submit it sometime Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday to MDE, but I think it's really important that we prepare our families, prepare our students on what closure will look like. So that will happen tomorrow. Any other questions about what tomorrow will look like, or concerns and noted that we can put additional procedures in for tomorrow?
Open it up, folks. Any other thoughts? I'm not seeing
So the next thing I'd like to talk about is what closure is going to look like. So what's going to be really important for all members of our staff is it's a little different for us because starting the 25th, 26th, and 27th, those on our school calendar are spring break. So our building is likely to be closed already. So the real question is, we were not prepared because we do not have staff available the 25th, 26th, and 27th for child aid school care. These were not part of our teachers' 182 days. It's not in the budget because when we built the budget, it was built up in school calendar. So just so everybody's aware, we're not paying hourly employees the 25th, 26th, and 27th. We wouldn't be doing it regardless because it's not part of our contract and it's not in the budget. And so our school calendar supersedes. I just want to make sure people are aware of it. So like our food service people are not working those days. Our mental health people would not be working those days. Now, if you are really adamant that we need to provide the service, we can look into it, but I want to make sure people are aware of it because on our school calendar, it's spring break, no school. comment?
Yeah, we have staff that was going to be working shift, correct, for Laker Legends on spring break anyway, so we had that budgeted to be paying them staff. We don't have a number yet of how many we would have, but we did have it in place.
Yeah, we'd have to talk to Bill about, how that would work, cause that would be true if we continued off that service. The concern is that typically when you have the Lakers Legends with those large numbers, one thing we'd have to do is probably add additional staff, cause you could have 40 kids with 2 adults, and that would be unacceptable.
Right, I know we're canceling just, I mean, it would just be some medical, not everything. But I'm just saying that staff was expecting to work, they're not.
Bill, any comment? Did you guys discuss that?
Sarah?
We've discussed the fact that this is going to be changing by the time that we get to next Wednesday. And so we don't necessarily know exactly what that looks like, and if we are at a crisis at that point, we thought that potentially we would discuss that as we got closer. Certainly in 1 week from last Monday to this Monday, it's changed a lot. And so as we get to next Monday, maybe we would know more and think about how we may have to or may not have to provide services such as that.
Well, one thing we could do is take a note, and we could, if we need to, we could always post for additional personnel to get a favorable ratio. Let's say 1 to 7 or 1 to 5 to make sure we have coverage and using additional space. But I just want to make sure it's very clear as we enter the closure period. I've directed all of our directors and supervisors that this is where we'll be looking at minimal manning personnel. So one of my promises is we'll probably disable everyone's fob other than regular business hours. There's no reason for people to be in our building at 10 o'clock. Just because for Corey to have a good handle on how clean our building is, we want to make sure that we don't have people coming in or accessing our building without our knowledge, because we want to make sure that we don't have any contamination. So looking at that. The second thing is you're going to see minimal manning in our building. Our principals will work with the business learning development, and our paraprofessionals and our support staff will be used in supporting our meal delivery, our school age emergency personnel, care, and our mental health, working on how they can do telepractice. And then of course we'll have kitchen staff providing meals in our 2 locations. And we're also working with home busing with a curbside pickup for those kids to come in for school age care and possibly delivering the meals. We just have to get an idea of what we're having, and so that'll be televised sometime tonight. For the high school league, there's no activities. Community education is closed, except for Laker Legends, which we'll revisit. And Corey talked to me about Corey Curry talked about our custodians, what's going to happen during the closure.
Well, after, I'll go back and touch base with the food service for tomorrow anyway. We're gonna be working hand in hand with food service to get everything provided around the building. There's a lot of logistics moving stuff around to the entire building for as long as it takes, basically. I mean, it's hard to know with all the people still having access to the building what areas are gonna need cleaning. We're gonna have to have close communication with the principals, making sure where everybody's gonna be at on a daily basis, so we can get in and clean the appropriate areas.
Question for Corey? Ted? In my mind, it doesn't seem, nobody's tested positive, so theoretically, we don't even have it yet.
Correct.
So the cleaning is abundance of precaution, and, just so everybody knows that, so they don't start thinking, well, they're out there cleaning because they already had it. You follow? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're being very progressive with this action, not retroactive.
Right.
Just so.
We're being proactive.
Just like we're washing our hands a heck of a lot more than we used to.
Yep, but just so, you know what I mean?
Yes. Good
Positive.
Good point.
It's also important to make note that Palmer Bus Service is also done deep cleaning of all the buses, so their employees are getting paid. It's also important throughout this entire period that all employees will continue to get paid. We were not expecting leave or sick leave or vacation leave. Vicki, you wanna talk a little bit about what the district office, human resources, services look like, please?
Well, we plan on keeping the office open. Deb Nelson is working remotely from home. She's able to come in through her internet service, and she is live on her desktop. She's already done some data entry this afternoon. The rest of us are setting up a schedule. Tomorrow I think we're gonna work as normal. After that, we're gonna set up a schedule so the office will be open at all times. But not everybody will be there.
Sarah, Corey, you wanna talk a little bit about, and then Kelly, about your staffing model, what that'll look like during closure?
Yeah, I think Corey has left, but Corey and I are pretty much the same on this. We are at the point where our staff is not gathering anymore. They do need to work in grade level teams, and so they potentially can work as a social distance in a group of 4, 5, maybe 6 people. Otherwise, they need to go online. We have talked that all of our grade levels will be the same expectations. They may use a different video for each thing as they communicate with kids, but certainly they'll be working as grade levels to do any planning, and they are allowed to do that in the building at any point, but also largely out of the building as well. We'll communicate with staff via Google Hangout and emails in a variety of ways that way. Kelly?
Yeah, pretty much the same, although our teachers are all just have their own individual grade levels, so.
I also like to compliment the board on jumping on Google Hangout tonight, because I think it's important that we're modeling what we're preaching. I'm not wild about being in a cramped up hotel room, but I think it's important that we model what we say. And so I think the board is modeling tonight what we can do with the technology we do have. But I think it is important to just lay out. We'll continue to pay people, payroll will happen. We do have a board meeting coming up the following Monday. So school is closed. We will have a board meeting. The building will be open and available, but I think one thing that's going to have to be important is there'll be limited access to our building. And unless, Mr. Chair, you want to delay the board meeting, but I think we actually need to have it so we can pay our bills. But it can be a short meeting, and people can remote in.
We will continue with that.
But I'll leave that to you.
We will continue with the meeting on Monday. I will be present. We don't need any other board members physically present. If you want to join in by electronically, that's fine.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair, what will happen, like I said, on Monday, I'm hopeful that I'll have a rough draft of what we're going to be for our distance learning. I think it's also it's important for all board members to strike e-learning, flex learning, out of your vocabulary, and it's distance learning. A delivery model might be e-learning using digital platforms. There might be some flex learning by materials, and then we're going to also have to consider about. I believe that it will be much like you mentioned, Mr. Chair, that there'll probably be a drive-through where you're going to pick up materials on a weekly basis and drop materials off. But we'll flush that out over the next the 3 days this week and on Monday with our staff. But it's fair to say that our building will be locked, and unless you have a purpose to be in our building, we're asking you not to be in our building. And as Mr. Reichman mentioned, it's not because we have anybody sick. It's because we're going to limit we're going to slow the growth of this virus spread. Any questions during our closure? That does not take board approval. It just takes superintendent submission. I think having the e-learning days that we've had the last 2 years has prepared us to be more successful. But I think it's very, very important. During this phase of closure, it's about slowing the growth of this virus spread and preparing for the future. I think that as we prepare for distance learning, we'll look at different models on how we can make this successful. But obviously, this is not the preferred model, and these are uncharted waters. And there'll be success and failures, but I believe that we'll work as hard as we can to provide academic services, and that which is TBD. I think, it's hard to speculate, but, based on our president and the governor, I believe changes in the air, and we'll know more probably at the end of this week or early next week. So, subject to that, any questions as we prepare our distance learning or guidance you want to provide? I'll turn over to the board.
Open it up, folks. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Meyer?
this is Ann. If I could just add, by the time March 30th rolls around, we may need to consider, and we're already doing this with our essential personnel, basically any employee that travels out of state right now, or cruises or airlines, we need to get temperature tested every day for 14 days, and that is only because for the essential personnel. For people that don't necessarily need to be here, we're severely limiting them. But my point is, for the staff that's still planning on going on vacation, we may be designated by the governor or Minnesota Department of Health that they need to be quarantined for 14 days by that time. Just something to consider from a distance learning. I don't think that would be a problem as long as they're quarantined.
We do have some that already are returning today and that are self-quarantining already, both students and staff.
Right.
And we have had the conversation with staff that we know that are still planning to leave and go on vacation. The preparation when they return may look different, and that they need to take their things with them in case they are in self-quarantine when they return.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Meyer. Ms. Meyer? Any further comments?
I do think it is important for board members. I'm going to show you my screen. So, I just think it's important for board members to see. You come over here. Okay, so here's my Google Drive. When I was in Africa, I found out that I have 3,100 documents in my drive. So over here is our regular drive. Okay, so all the documents I've shared, these are all my folders. Here's all my recent documents. But before I left, I uploaded a bunch of documents I needed to read for the work college. And because I didn't know if I'd have Wi-Fi, which you can do over here, go over to downloads. Okay, when you start looking at downloads, these are documents that I might have had. So I looked at the activities, limitations, the COVID response, contracts. So what this does is allows you to have, here's all my work college papers down below. But what it allowed me to do is have these downloaded, so I did not need the internet. So one of the key things, reason why we're bringing kids in tomorrow, is that anything they might need to download that they would not have. And so say you didn't have internet, you could download everything, and you could work for maybe days without having to have the internet. But I do think it's important that you see how this does work. So you can go get your documents downloaded. We worked through that with our distance, with our leadership team. But I would just tell you that in my video, if you got a chance to watch it, today's focus is really on tomorrow. Tomorrow's focus is about closure. And then during the closure period is when we're really working on phase 3. Different time. So I thought I would point that out. Any comments, questions, concerns about as we try to bring the final plan into action or guidance?
I'm seeing none. And stating that, I would just summarize by noting that I think that we have incredible staff. I appreciate our administrative team's work. I trust the students and families of Polk County are strong people that look out for each other and support each other. So this is going to be, we're going to get through this together and move forward. Any further comments? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn at 6:17.
So moved.
Parsons, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Bragman, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed nay. Motion carries.
Do you have to do a roll call again?
Hold on, I gotta do a roll call.
Sorry.
Goodness gracious. Parsons.
Yes.
Christensen's a yes. Holtberg.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Bragman.
Yep.
Delagio. Guggenberg.
Yes.
All right, motion carries.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
applaud our board and our leadership team. I think we are modeling what the new normal is gonna look like for the next few months. And so I wanna thank everyone for being able to jump on this and learn about this, so.
Thank you, sir. Stay healthy.
Thank you.
I'll be available if there's any phone calls. We're working on a draft letter that will go out, to all families before 7:30 tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.